Lisa Martinez could barely keep her eyes open. The bright lights of the medical bay hurt her head, and every breath felt like fire in her chest. She had been lying in this bed for 3 weeks now, watching her body slowly give up the fight against the alien disease that was killing her. Dr. Kevin Stone stood beside her bed, his face grave as he looked at the medical readings on his tablet. Jake Martinez sat in the chair next to his wife, holding her hand gently. Their 8-year-old daughter Emma stood close to her father, her small fingers gripping his arm. "The treatment isn't working," Dr. Stone said quietly. He had delivered bad news many times before, but this felt different. Lisa was one of the strongest people he knew. She had been a Marine captain before joining the colony mission, tough as nails and twice as stubborn. If this disease could break her, it could break anyone. Jake's hand tightened around Lisa's fingers. "What does that mean exactly?" Dr. Stone set down his tablet and pulled up a chair. "The Korath plague attacks the nervous system. Most people die within days. Lisa has been fighting it for weeks, which is remarkable. But her body is losing ground." "What are our options?" Jake asked, though his voice suggested he already knew the answer wouldn't be good. "There's an experimental treatment. We've been working on it since the first cases appeared 6 months ago. It's never been tested on humans before." Dr. Stone paused, choosing his words carefully. "Based on our computer models, it has about a 2% chance of success." Emma looked up at her father with wide, frightened eyes. "What happens if it doesn't work?" Dr. Stone glanced at Jake, who nodded slightly. "If it doesn't work, sweetheart, your mom she'll go to sleep and won't wake up." Lisa squeezed Jake's hand with what little strength she had left. Her voice came out as barely a whisper. "Do it." "Lisa, you should think about this," Jake said, leaning closer to hear her better. 2% is better than 0, she managed to say. "I'm not giving up, not while I have you two to fight for." Dr. Stone stood up. "I'll need to prepare the treatment. It will take a few hours. The process itself is intense. We'll need to put you under general anesthesia." As Dr. Stone left to make preparations, Jake moved his chair closer to the bed. Emma climbed up to sit carefully beside her mother, being careful not to disturb any of the wires and tubes. "Remember when we used to go camping back on Earth?" Lisa asked, her voice soft, but clearer than it had been in days. Emma nodded eagerly. "You taught me how to make a fire and catch fish." "And you caught more fish than your old mom did," Lisa smiled weakly. "You've always been stronger than you know, baby girl." Outside the medical bay, the colony ship New Haven continued its journey through the dark space between stars. 50,000 people called this massive ship home as they traveled toward a new world in the Kepler 442b system. Most of them had no idea that death was stalking the corridors in the form of an alien plague. The disease had first appeared when they stopped at a space station for supplies 6 months ago. A few crew members had explored some abandoned alien ruins on a nearby moon. They brought back more than just interesting artifacts. At first, the symptoms seemed like a simple flu: headaches, fatigue, mild fever. Then people started having seizures. Their nervous systems began shutting down. The lucky ones died quickly. Others, like Lisa, fought the disease for weeks before their bodies finally gave up. Jake remembered the day Lisa first got sick. She had been working in the ship's security department, training new recruits. She came home that evening complaining of a headache. By morning, she could barely stand. Within a week, she was in the medical bay fighting for her life. "Dad?" Emma's voice brought him back to the present. "Yes, sweetheart? Mom's going to be okay, right? She's the strongest person I know. Jake looked at his daughter's hopeful face and felt his heart break a little. Your mom is a fighter. If anyone can beat this thing, it's her. Lisa opened her eyes and looked at them both. Whatever happens, I need you both to promise me something. Anything, Jake said immediately. Promise me you'll take care of each other, and promise me you'll make it to our new home. Build the life we dreamed about. We're all going to build that life together, Jake said firmly. Dr. Stone returned with 2 nurses and a cart full of medical equipment. We're ready to begin. The treatment will take about 6 hours. You should probably get some rest. Jake stood up reluctantly. Can we stay until she's asleep? Of course. The nurses began connecting new IV lines and preparing the anesthesia. Dr. Stone checked his equipment one more time. In all his years as a doctor, he had never administered a treatment with such a low chance of success. But he had also never met anyone quite like Lisa Martinez. As the anesthesia began to take effect, Lisa's eyes found Jake's face. I love you, she whispered. I love you too. See you on the other side. Lisa's eyes closed, and the machines took over the job of keeping her alive. Dr. Stone looked at the complex mixture of drugs and alien compounds that made up the experimental treatment. Half of the ingredients had been synthesized from samples of the plague itself. The theory was that the body might be able to build immunity if exposed to controlled amounts of the alien virus, along with powerful immune boosters. It was a desperate plan based on incomplete science. But desperate times called for desperate measures. As Dr. Stone began the injection, none of them knew that far beyond the ship's sensors, alien ships were already tracking the New Haven through hyperspace. The Korath had released their plague deliberately, and now they were coming to claim their prize. The next few hours would determine not just Lisa's fate, but the fate of every human soul aboard the colony ship. In the darkness of space, predators were approaching, expecting to find a ship full of dying, defenseless humans. They had no idea what they were about to encounter. 6 months after the battle with the Korath fleet, the colony ship New Haven arrived at the Kepler 442b system. The planet they had traveled so far to reach was everything they had hoped for. Blue oceans, green continents, and an atmosphere that could support human life without modification. But the humans who stepped onto the surface of their new world were not the same people who had left Earth 3 years earlier. Lisa Martinez stood on a hill overlooking the site where New Haven City would be built, watching as construction teams laid the foundation for humanity's first permanent settlement, beyond the solar system. She looked the same as she had before the Korath attack, but everyone who knew her could see the difference. Her movements were too fluid, her reflexes too quick, and there was something predatory in her eyes that had never been there before. The plague that should have killed her had turned her into something beyond human, and that transformation had changed more than just her body. Dr. Kevin Stone approached her with a tablet full of medical data. Over the past 6 months, he had been studying her transformation, trying to understand exactly what the alien virus had done to her. The latest test results are in, he said, setting the tablet down on a nearby rock. Your cellular regeneration rate is still accelerating. Your neural pathways are becoming more efficient every day, and your immune system has developed resistance to over 300 different biological agents. Lisa picked up the tablet and scrolled through the data. Her enhanced mind processed the information in seconds, understanding implications that would take normal humans hours to work through. Any side effects? She asked. That depends on how you define side effects. Your empathy responses have been altered. You still care deeply about protecting humans, especially your family, But your reaction to threats has become extremely aggressive. Lisa nodded. She had noticed the change herself. Things that might have made her angry before now triggered a cold, calculating rage that frightened even her. What about the volunteers? Dr. Stone looked toward the medical facility they had set up in the early days of colonization. 37 successful transformations so far. Jake was the first, of course. Lisa's husband had volunteered for the enhancement process as soon as Dr. Stone had figured out how to replicate her transformation. Jake couldn't match Lisa's capabilities. No one could, but he was still faster, stronger, and more resilient than any normal human. Other volunteers had followed. Combat veterans, security personnel, and even some civilian colonists who wanted to help protect their new home. Not everyone survived the process, but those who did became part of humanity's new guardian class. Emma ran up the hill toward her parents, moving with the enhanced speed that all the transformed humans possessed. At 8 years old, she was too young for the full enhancement process, but her exposure to Lisa during pregnancy and nursing had given her some enhanced abilities. "Mom, Commander Thompson wants to see you at the communications center," Emma said, barely breathing hard despite running several miles. Lisa ruffled her daughter's hair. "What's the emergency now?" "Ships, Mom. Alien ships." Lisa's expression immediately became focused and dangerous. "How many?" "I don't know." But Commander Thompson looked scared. The three of them made their way to the communications center, where Commander Alex Thompson was coordinating with the orbital monitoring stations they had established around the planet. "Captain Martinez," Thompson said as she entered, "we've got contacts at the edge of the system. 23 ships of unknown configuration." Lisa studied the sensor readings on the main display. The ships were definitely not Korath. The energy signatures were completely different. "How long until they reach us?" "At their current speed, about 6 hours. "Any attempt at communication?" "None. They're just watching us." Lisa activated the long-range communication system and broadcast on all frequencies. "Unknown vessels. This is Captain Lisa Martinez of the human colony on Kepler 442b. Please identify yourselves and state your intentions." The response came immediately, in perfect English with a slightly mechanical accent. "Captain Martinez, this is Fleet Commander Zarathul of the Galactic Trade Consortium. We have come to investigate reports of the destruction of a Korath Imperial fleet in this sector." Lisa exchanged glances with Thompson. The Galactic Trade Consortium was a loose alliance of alien species that controlled much of the commerce in this part of the galaxy. Humanity had never made contact with them before. "Commander Zarathul, the Korath fleet attacked our ship without provocation. We defended ourselves. Our records indicate that 12 Korath destroyers and over 3,000 trained warriors were completely destroyed by human forces. We find this difficult to believe." Lisa smiled grimly. "Then perhaps you should ask the Korath Empire for their version of events." There was a long pause before the alien commander responded. "Captain Martinez, the Korath Empire has declared a state of emergency. They claim that humans have developed biological weapons capable of species-wide extinction. They are requesting military support to contain what they call the human threat." Thompson looked at Lisa with concern. "They're trying to turn the whole galaxy against us." Lisa activated her personal communication device and spoke to the enhanced humans scattered across the colony. "All guardians to defensive positions. We may have company." She turned back to the communication system. Commander Zarathul, I invite you to send a representative to our colony. Come see for yourself what kind of people we are. But I should warn you, if your ships take any hostile action against our world, you'll discover exactly why the Korath fleet is now space debris. The alien fleet moved closer, but maintained a cautious distance. Within 2 hours, a single small ship detached from the formation and requested permission to land. Lisa met the alien delegation at the landing pad, accompanied by Jake and 6 other enhanced humans. The aliens were tall, graceful beings with silver skin and large dark eyes. Their leader introduced herself as Commander Zarathul. Captain Martinez, you are not what we expected. What did you expect? Based on Korath reports, we anticipated meeting savage warriors bent on galactic conquest. Instead, we find families building a peaceful colony. Lisa gestured toward the construction sites where humans were building homes, schools, and community centers. Commander, we didn't ask for this war. The Korath attacked us first, using biological weapons against civilians. They created me when their plague backfired. Everything that happened after that was their choice. Commander Zarathul studied Lisa carefully. You speak of yourself as having been created by the plague. What does that mean? Dr. Stone stepped forward and offered the alien commander a data pad. The Korath biological weapon didn't kill Captain Martinez. Instead, it enhanced her capabilities far beyond normal human parameters. She became perfectly adapted to fight their species. The alien commander reviewed the medical data with obvious interest. Fascinating. Biological adaptation during combat. We have never encountered anything like this. Commander, Lisa said, I need you to understand something. Humanity wants to live in peace with our galactic neighbors. We're not conquerors or warriors by nature. But if anyone threatens our families, our children, our homes, we will fight with everything we have. And if the Korath return with a larger fleet, Lisa's expression became cold and predatory, then I'll kill them all, every last one. Commander Zarathul was quiet for a long moment, studying the human colony spread out below them. Captain Martinez, the Galactic Trade Consortium officially recognizes human sovereignty over this system. We will also be filing a formal complaint against the Korath Empire for their unprovoked attack on civilian targets. What about their request for military support? Denied. Based on what we've seen here, the Korath created their own problem. They can solve it themselves. As the alien delegation prepared to leave, Commander Zarathul approached Lisa one final time. Captain, a word of advice. The galaxy is watching humanity now. Some species will see you as potential allies. Others will see you as a threat to be eliminated. Be prepared. Lisa nodded grimly. We always are. As the Trade Consortium fleet departed, Lisa stood with her family on the hill overlooking their new city. In the distance, she could see other enhanced humans training, preparing for whatever threats might come. The Korath had given her a 2% chance to survive their plague. Instead, she had given them 0% mercy and turned their own weapon into humanity's shield. The galaxy was indeed watching, and what they saw was a species that had evolved beyond their expectations, not through technology or conquest, but through the simple, terrifying determination to protect their own. Humanity had found its place among the stars, and the universe would learn to respect it. Emma tugged on her mother's hand. Mom, are the bad aliens going to come back? Lisa knelt down and hugged her daughter. Maybe, sweetheart. But if they do, they'll find out that threatening human families is the last mistake they'll ever make. In the growing darkness of their new world's night, the lights of New Haven City began to twinkle like stars. Humanity had come home at last, and they were ready to defend it against anything the galaxy could send. Admiral Vextar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Death's Talon, watching the human colony ship through his long-range sensors. His 4 arms moved across the control panels with practiced ease as he studied the data streaming in from his scout ships. The Korath Empire had been watching the human vessel for weeks now, ever since their plague had been successfully introduced to the ship's population. Vextar's scaled hide showed the dark purple markings of a seasoned warrior, and his yellow eyes gleamed with satisfaction. "Status report," he commanded in the harsh, clicking language of his people. Commander Zekhai, his second-in-command, approached, with a datapad clutched in one of his clawed hands. "The plague continues to spread through the human ship. Our sensors detect approximately 2,000 deaths so far, with many more showing symptoms." Vextar's mandibles clicked together in what passed for a smile among his species. "Excellent. And their defensive capabilities? Minimal. They have basic shields and a few weapon systems, but nothing that could threaten even one of our destroyers. The humans appear to be a colony ship, not a military vessel." The Admiral moved to the main viewing screen, where the human ship appeared as a distant speck of light. It was massive by human standards, nearly 5 kilometers long, but it looked clumsy and slow compared to the sleek Korath warships that surrounded it. 50,000 humans, Vextar mused. The Emperor will be pleased. Those who survive the plague will make excellent slaves for the mining colonies. The Korath Empire had been expanding across the galaxy for over 1,000 years. They had conquered dozens of species, always using the same tactics. First, they would introduce biological weapons to weaken their enemies. Then, when resistance was minimal, they would move in and claim their prize. Humans were a relatively new discovery. The Empire had encountered a few human ships over the past decade, but this would be their first major harvest. The species seemed physically weak compared to most others the Korath had faced, but they showed an interesting tendency toward violence that might make them useful as shock troops. "Sir," called out Navigation Officer Thekvor from his station, "we're receiving transmissions from the human vessel." "Put it on speakers," Vextar ordered. The bridge filled with the strange, soft sounds of human speech. The Korath had been studying human languages for months, and most of the bridge crew could understand the basic meaning. "This is Commander Alex Thompson of the colony ship New Haven. We are experiencing a medical emergency and request immediate assistance. Our people are dying from an unknown disease. Please respond if you can provide medical aid." The bridge erupted in the harsh laughter of the Korath crew. Vextar raised one of his hands for silence. "They're asking for help," Commander Zekhai said, his voice dripping with amusement. "They have no idea we're the ones who poisoned them." "Shall I order the attack, Admiral?" asked Weapons Officer Draktem, eager for combat. Vextar considered for a moment. "Not yet. Let them suffer a bit longer. I want their numbers reduced as much as possible before we board. Dead humans can't fight back." On the New Haven, Commander Alex Thompson paced nervously on the bridge. He was a career military officer who had volunteered for the colony mission because he believed in humanity's future among the stars. Now he was watching that future die one person at a time. "Any response to our distress calls?" he asked his communications officer. Lieutenant Amy Carter shook her head. "Nothing, sir. We're not detecting any other ships in the area." Thompson knew that wasn't entirely true. His sensors had been picking up strange readings for the past 2 days, objects that appeared and disappeared like ghosts in the darkness of space. But whatever they weren't responding to his calls for help. "Sir," called out Tactical Officer Ryan Walsh from his station. "I'm getting more of those sensor anomalies. Whatever's out there, it's getting closer." Thompson moved to look at Walsh's screen. The readings were definitely artificial. No natural phenomenon could move with such precise patterns. "How many contacts?" "Hard to say, sir. They seem to have some kind of stealth technology. I count at least 12, possibly more. Could they be human ships from Earth?" Walsh studied his readings more carefully. "The energy signatures are all wrong. This isn't human technology." Thompson felt a chill run down his spine. Humanity had encountered other intelligent species during their expansion into space, but most contacts had been peaceful. Trade agreements, cultural exchanges, joint scientific missions. But these unknown ships were hiding in the shadows while humans died from an alien plague. "Bring us to yellow alert," Thompson ordered. "Charge the defensive systems." "Sir?" Lieutenant Carter called out. "Dr. Stone is requesting to speak with you urgently." Thompson activated his communicator. "This is the bridge. Commander, we're about to begin the experimental treatment on Captain Martinez. But I wanted to inform you that we've made a disturbing discovery about the plague." "What kind of discovery?" "It's definitely artificial. This isn't a natural virus. Someone engineered this specifically to target human physiology." Thompson closed his eyes and took a deep breath. "You're saying someone deliberately infected us?" "That's exactly what I'm saying. And whoever did it has a very sophisticated understanding of human biology." Thompson looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. They were all thinking the same thing. The ships hiding in the darkness weren't here to help. Back on the Korath flagship, Vextar watched as his fleet moved into attack formation. 12 heavy destroyers and over 50 smaller attack craft surrounded the human vessel like predators circling wounded prey. "Sir," reported Commander Zekhai, "the humans have raised their shields and are charging weapons. Let them. Their weapons can't penetrate our armor, and their shields won't last 5 minutes against our firepower." Vextar settled into his command chair. "Signal the fleet. In 1 hour, we attack. I want prisoners, not corpses. Use minimum force." As the Korath fleet prepared for what they expected to be an easy victory, none of them paid any attention to the medical bay deep within, the human ship. They didn't know about Lisa Martinez, or the experimental treatment that was about to change everything. The Korath had made a critical error. They assumed that because humans seemed physically weak, they would be easy to defeat. They had never encountered a species that grew stronger under pressure, that fought harder when their families were threatened. In 1 hour, they would learn exactly how dangerous cornered humans could be. Dr. Kevin Stone stared at the blood samples under his microscope, trying to make sense of what he was seeing. He had collected the samples from the medical bay floor where Lisa had been treated, and the results were impossible to believe. "This can't be right," he muttered, adjusting the focus again. The virus that had been killing Lisa was still there in the samples, but it wasn't dead. Instead, it had somehow merged with human DNA, creating something entirely new. The alien virus hadn't been destroyed by the treatment. It had been transformed into something that enhanced human capabilities rather than destroying them. His computer analysis showed cellular structures that no human had ever possessed before. Enhanced muscle fibers, improved neural pathways, and a nervous system that operated at nearly superhuman speeds. "Helen," he called to his assistant. Have you been monitoring the security feeds from the battle zones? Nurse Helen Brooks looked up from her work. Some of it. Why? Pull up the footage from Deck 7. I need to see exactly what Lisa did to those aliens. Helen activated the wall screen and brought up the security recordings. They watched in silence as Lisa moved through the corridors, taking down Korath warriors with impossible speed and precision. She's moving faster than our cameras can track, Helen whispered. Look at this part. She dodges that energy blast like she could see it coming. Dr. Stone paused the video and zoomed in on Lisa's face. Her eyes definitely had an inner glow that hadn't been there before, and her movements were too fluid to be entirely human. The virus didn't just fail to kill her, he realized. It evolved her, turned her into something designed to hunt the very species that created it. Meanwhile, Lisa was making her way through the ship's docking bay, where several Korath boarding craft were still attached to the New Haven's hull. She moved silently between the alien vessels, studying their design and listening to the communications chatter from their crews. The Korath language was becoming clearer to her with each passing hour. Not only could she understand their words, but she was beginning to think like they did. She could anticipate their tactics, predict their movements, and exploit their weaknesses. She climbed aboard the nearest boarding craft and found it empty except for a single guard. The alien warrior was focused on monitoring communications from the main fleet, completely unaware that Death had just stepped onto his ship. Lisa studied the guard for a moment, noting the weak points in his armor and the way he held his weapon. Then she moved. The alien died without making a sound. Lisa took his communication equipment and his access codes, then began studying the ship's systems. The Korath technology was biological in nature, grown rather than built, but her enhanced mind quickly figured out how it worked. She activated the ship's communication system and listened to the chatter from the main fleet. Admiral Vex Tar was growing increasingly frustrated with the reports from his boarding parties. How can one human female destroy an entire assault team? His voice crackled through the speakers. Sir, the reports are consistent, came the reply from another ship. She moves faster than our warriors can react, and she seems to understand our language and tactics. Impossible. Humans are a primitive species with no knowledge of our ways. Lisa smiled as she activated the ship's self-destruct sequence. Time to show them just how primitive we are. She leaped from the boarding craft just as it exploded, taking out 2 other alien ships in the blast. The explosion echoed through the docking bay, and she could hear the panic in the Korath communications as they realized their prey was fighting back. Moving to another part of the ship, Lisa found a group of human civilians trapped by alien warriors in a storage area. The Korath had cornered about 20 people, including several children, and were preparing to transport them to their ships as slaves. Lisa watched from the shadows as the aliens herded their prisoners into a tight group. She counted 8 warriors, all armed with energy weapons and carrying restraint devices designed for human prisoners. One of the children, a boy about Emma's age, was crying for his mother. One of the Korath warriors struck him with the back of its hand, sending the child sprawling. That was a mistake. Lisa erupted from her hiding place like a force of nature. Her first target was the alien that had hit the child. She drove her stolen weapon through a gap in its armor and watched it fall. The other aliens spun toward her, but she was already moving. She had learned to use their own tactics against them. The Korath fought as a group, supporting each other and coordinating their attacks. But they weren't prepared for an enemy that could move faster than they could think. Lisa flowed between them like water, striking at weak points and using their own weapons against them. When one alien tried to use a human child as a shield, she put an energy blast through its weapon hand with surgical precision. In less than a minute, 8 Korath warriors lay dead, and 20 human civilians were free. "Thank you," whispered the mother of the boy who had been struck. "How did you do that?" Lisa helped the woman to her feet. "Long story. Right now we need to get you all to safety." As she led the civilians toward the nearest shelter, Lisa's enhanced hearing picked up something that made her blood run cold. The aliens were discussing a new strategy. If they couldn't capture the humans easily, they would simply kill them all and take the ship. She got the civilians to safety, then found a communication terminal and patched into the ship's intercom system. "Commander Thompson, this is Lisa Martinez. Can you hear me?" Thompson's voice came back immediately. "Captain Martinez, we thought you were still in the medical bay. What's your status?" "I'm fully operational, sir. Better than operational, actually. I need to speak with you about the alien battle plans." "Meet me on the bridge. I'll have security escort you up." "That won't be necessary, sir. I can take care of myself." Lisa made her way to the bridge, passing several security teams who were setting up defensive positions. She noticed that word of her actions was spreading through the crew. People looked at her with a mixture of awe and fear. When she reached the bridge, Commander Thompson took one look at her and stepped back. "Captain, you look different." "Dr. Stone's treatment did more than cure the virus, sir. It changed me, enhanced me. And right now, that might be the only thing standing between our people and complete annihilation." She handed him one of the alien communication devices she had captured. "Sir, they're planning to stop trying to capture us. New orders are coming down from their fleet commander. If they can't take us alive, they're going to kill everyone on board and just take the ship." Thompson listened to the alien chatter for a moment, then looked back at Lisa. "How many of them are left on our ship?" "Maybe 40 warriors spread across 6 boarding teams. But that's not the real problem. The real problem is the fleet outside. 12 heavy destroyers and over 50 attack craft. Our weapons can't penetrate. They're shields." Lisa smiled, and for a moment, Thompson saw something in her expression that was definitely not entirely human. "Then I guess I'll have to go out there and deal with them personally." "That's suicide, Captain." "No, sir. That's evolution." Through the bridge windows, they could see the alien fleet moving into attack formation. The Korath had decided that if they couldn't have live human slaves, they would settle for a colony ship and 50,000 corpses. They had no idea that their own biological weapon had just created the perfect hunter to track them down. Lisa moved through the ship's corridors like a ghost, her enhanced senses guiding her toward the sound of battle. She could hear everything now: the heavy footsteps of the alien warriors, the panicked breathing of trapped civilians, the whine of energy weapons cutting through metal. When she reached Deck 7, the scene was chaos. Security teams had set up defensive positions behind overturned tables and emergency barriers, but they were losing ground fast. The Korath warriors were 7 feet tall, covered in thick armor that seemed to absorb the impact of human weapons. Security. Officer Mark Davis was pressed against the wall, clutching a wounded arm. "Captain Martinez? You shouldn't be here. These things are impossible to kill." Lisa knelt beside him and examined his wound. The alien weapon had burned through his uniform, but the injury wasn't life-threatening. "Where's the main fighting?" "Corridor junction ahead. We lost 5 people trying to hold that position." Mark's voice was shaky. "Their armor is too thick. Our weapons just bounce off." Lisa peered around the corner and saw her first Korath warrior. The alien was massive, with 4 arms ending in clawed hands. Its armor was dark metal that seemed to shift and flow like liquid. Yellow eyes glowed behind a helmet that looked more like a skull. The creature was advancing slowly down the corridor, firing energy blasts from a weapon that looked like it had been grown rather than built. Behind him, she could see 2 more, aliens moving up to support. Lisa raised her plasma rifle and took aim, but then something strange happened. Time seemed to slow down around her. She could see the energy blast leaving the alien's weapon, could track its path through the air. Without thinking, she moved to one side, and the blast passed harmlessly by her. The Korath warrior's head turned toward her hiding spot, and she heard it speak in its clicking language. Human female detected. Initiating capture protocol. But Lisa understood every word, and more importantly, she understood what the alien was planning to do. In its mind, she was just another weak human to be captured and enslaved. She stepped out into the open corridor. The alien raised its weapon, but Lisa was already moving. Her enhanced reflexes carried her forward in a zigzag pattern that made her impossible to target. She covered 50 feet in seconds, moving faster than any human had ever moved before. The Korath warrior had just enough time to look confused before Lisa's plasma rifle pressed against a weak point in its armor, right where the neck piece connected to the chest plate. She pulled the trigger. The alien's own weapon fell from nerveless fingers as it collapsed. The 2 warriors behind it froze in shock. In all their centuries of conquest, they had never seen a single enemy soldier take down a Korath warrior in hand-to-hand combat. Lisa picked up the fallen alien's weapon and studied it for a moment. Her enhanced mind quickly figured out how it worked. The trigger mechanism was designed for 4-fingered hands, but she could adapt. She turned the weapon on its former comrades. The energy blast tore through the first alien's armor like paper. The second warrior managed to get off one shot before Lisa's return fire cut it down. Its blast missed her by inches, leaving a molten scar in the wall behind her. The corridor fell silent except for the hum of alien weapons and the distant sounds of fighting from other parts of the ship. Mark Davis emerged from cover, staring at the 3 dead aliens in disbelief. "How did you do that?" Lisa examined the alien weapon more closely. It was definitely biological technology. The trigger felt warm and seemed to pulse with its own heartbeat. "I'm not entirely sure," she admitted. More sounds echoed from deeper in the ship. The aliens had split into multiple groups, trying to capture as many humans as possible while dealing minimal damage to the ship itself. They wanted their prize intact. "Mark, get back to the shelter and help coordinate evacuations. I'm going after the other groups." "Captain, you can't take on all of them by yourself." Lisa looked at him with eyes that seemed to glow in the dim. "Emergency lighting. Watch me." She moved deeper into the ship, following the sounds of combat. Her enhanced hearing let her track each group of aliens, and her improved reflexes meant she could move through the ship's maintenance tunnels and service corridors without being detected. The second group of Korath warriors was trying to break into the main computer core. They needed access to the ship's navigation systems to guide it back to their empire. Lisa emerged from a ventilation shaft directly above them. The aliens looked up just in time to see death dropping from the ceiling. Lisa landed among them like a force of nature, the stolen alien weapon cutting down 2 warriors before they could react. The third managed to fire a shot that grazed her shoulder, but she barely felt it. Her enhanced body was already healing the wound. She grabbed the alien's weapon and turned it against him, then moved on to find the next group. Word was beginning. to spread through the Korath boarding parties. Their simple conquest was turning into a nightmare. Warriors who had never known fear were starting to report sightings of a death shadow that moved through the ship like a hunting animal. Lisa found the third group trying to break into the civilian shelters. These aliens were equipped with cutting, tools designed to slice through the reinforced doors that protected the refugees. She could hear her own family's voices on the other side of one of those doors. This time, she didn't try to be subtle. Lisa walked into the open area where the aliens were working and announced herself. "Looking for me?" The Korath warriors spun around, weapons raised. There were 6 of them, all veterans of dozens of conquests. They had never failed to capture their prey, but they had never hunted anything like Lisa Martinez. The fight was over in less than 30 seconds. Lisa moved between them like a dancer, using their own weapons against them, turning their numbers into a disadvantage. When the last alien fell, she was standing in the middle of 6 corpses, barely breathing hard. The shelter door opened, and Ryan Walsh emerged with a security team. He looked at the scene in front of him and shook his head in amazement. "Captain, what the hell happened to you in that medical bay?" Lisa picked up one of the alien communication devices and listened to the chatter from their ship. The Korath were starting to panic. Their boarding operation was falling apart, and they didn't understand why. "I think Dr. Stone's treatment did more than cure the virus," she said. "I think it turned me into something these aliens weren't prepared to fight." Through the communication device, she could hear the alien commander issuing new orders. They were calling for reinforcements and switching to heavier weapons. The easy conquest was becoming a real war. Lisa smiled grimly as she checked the charge on her stolen weapon. "Good. I was hoping they'd make this interesting." Behind her, Jake and Emma emerged from the shelter. Emma ran to her mother and hugged her tightly. "Are you okay, Mom?" Lisa hugged her daughter back, being careful not to squeeze too hard with her enhanced strength. "I'm fine, baby, and I'm going to make sure these aliens never hurt our family." Jake looked at the dead aliens scattered around the corridor. "Lisa, this isn't possible. No human could do this." Lisa met his eyes, and he saw the truth there. "I'm not entirely human anymore, Jake. But I'm still me, and I'm still going to protect you." The communication device crackled with more alien voices. They were regrouping for another assault, this time with their most experienced warriors. Lisa handed the device to Ryan. "Monitor their communications. I'm going to pay a visit to their ship." Dr. Kevin Stone had never seen anything like it in 20 years of medicine. He stared at the readings on his medical scanner, checked them again, then ran a completely new set of tests. The results were impossible, but they were also undeniable. Lisa Martinez was not only alive, she was getting stronger. For the past 6 hours, he had watched her vital signs climb steadily upward. Her heart rate had stabilized, her brain activity was normal, and most shocking of all, the alien virus in her bloodstream was dying off rapidly. "This can't be right," he muttered to himself, running another scan. Nurse Helen Brooks looked over his shoulder at the readings. "Doctor, her cellular regeneration rate is off the charts. Look at this." She pointed to a series of numbers on the screen. "Her white blood cell count has tripled in the past hour." Dr. Stone shook his head in amazement. "The treatment was only supposed to slow down the virus, give her immune system time to fight back. This looks like her body is completely rewriting itself." Lisa's eyes opened suddenly, startling both medical staff. They were clearer and more focused than they had been in weeks. She tried to sit up, but Dr. Stone gently pushed her back down. "Easy there, Captain. You've been unconscious for 6 hours. How are you feeling?" Lisa blinked a few times, as if trying to focus. "Different," she said quietly. "Everything sounds louder. The lights are too bright." Dr. Stone dimmed the lights. "In the medical bay. Your nervous system might be more sensitive after the treatment. That should pass in a few hours." But Lisa was already noticing other changes. She could hear conversations from the corridor outside, conversations that should have been too quiet to make out. She could smell things she had never noticed before, like the metal polish on the door frames and the specific type of soap Helen had used that morning. "Where are Jake and Emma?" she asked. "I sent them to get some rest. Your husband was exhausted. Should I call them?" Lisa started to say yes, but then she heard something that made her freeze. It was a low, rhythmic vibration coming through the ship's hull. She had spent enough time on starships to know what that meant. "Doctor, are we under attack?" Dr. Stone looked confused. "What? No, why would you ask that?" But Lisa was already sitting up, ignoring his protests. The sounds were getting clearer now. She could hear the hum of weapons charging, the rapid conversations on the bridge, and something else. Voices speaking in a language she had never heard before, but somehow understood. The alien voices were discussing attack patterns and boarding. "Procedures. We need to find Jake and Emma right now," Lisa said, swinging her legs over the side of the bed. "Captain Martinez, you can't get up yet. You need to rest." Lisa stood up anyway, and immediately realized something was very wrong. She felt incredibly strong, like she could punch through the metal walls if she wanted to. Her balance was perfect. Her reflexes lightning fast. "Helen, hand me that medical scanner," she said. When the nurse reached for the device, Lisa could see her moving in what seemed like slow motion. Without thinking, Lisa caught the scanner before Helen had even finished. Extending her arm, Dr. Stone backed away slowly. "Lisa, what just happened?" Before she could answer, the ship's intercom crackled to life. "All hands to emergency stations. This is not a drill. We are under attack by unknown alien vessels. All civilians report to emergency shelters immediately." Lisa was already moving toward the door. "I have to find my family." "Wait!" Dr. Stone called after her. "You can't leave. We don't know what the treatment did to you." Lisa paused and looked back at him. For just a moment, her eyes seemed to glow with an inner light. "I know exactly what it did to me, Doctor. It made me into exactly what these aliens don't want to face." She ran out of the medical bay and into chaos. Emergency lights were flashing throughout the corridors, and people were running in all directions. Some were heading toward the emergency shelters, while others were moving toward duty stations. Lisa moved through the crowd with inhuman grace, never bumping into anyone despite the panic around her. She could hear every conversation, smell the fierce sweat of the panicking civilians, and feel the vibrations of the alien ships closing in. She reached the residential section where her family lived in record time. The door to their quarters was locked, but she could hear Jake and Emma inside packing emergency supplies. "Jake, it's me," she called out, pounding on the door. The door opened immediately, and Jake's face went from relief to shock. "Lisa." "How? Are you standing? Dr. Stone said you'd be unconscious for hours." "Change of plans," she said, stepping inside and grabbing Emma in a fierce hug. "We need to get to the shelters now." Emma pulled back and looked at her mother with wide eyes. "Mom, you look different." Lisa glanced in the mirror near their door and saw what Emma meant. Her skin had a subtle glow to it, and her muscles looked more defined than they had ever been. But there wasn't time to worry about that now. "Something's happening to me," she admitted to Jake. The treatment did more than just cure the virus, but right now, all that matters is keeping you two safe. They grabbed their emergency packs and headed back into the corridor. Lisa could hear the alien voices getting closer, and she realized the enemy ships had already launched boarding craft. "This way," she said, guiding them toward the nearest emergency shelter. As they ran, Jake noticed that Lisa wasn't even breathing hard, despite the fact that they were practically sprinting. "Lisa, are you okay? You seem different." "I know. We'll figure it out later." They reached the emergency shelter just as the first explosions rocked the ship. The Korath boarding pods had breached the hull in multiple locations, and alien warriors were pouring into the new haven. Security Chief Ryan Walsh was organizing the defense from a command post near the main shelter. He saw Lisa approaching and did a double take. "Captain Martinez? You're supposed to be in the medical bay." "Not anymore," Lisa said grimly. "What's our situation?" "Bad. We're outnumbered and outgunned. These aliens have technology we've never seen before. Our weapons barely scratch their armor." Lisa looked around at the frightened faces of the civilians cramming into the shelter. Her enhanced hearing picked up the sounds of battle from multiple decks. Human screams, alien battle cries, and the distinctive whine of energy weapons. "Get my family to safety," she told Ryan. "I'm going to help with the defense." "Lisa, no." Jake grabbed her arm. "You just got better. You can't go fight aliens." Lisa turned to look at him, and for a moment, Jake saw something in her eyes that wasn't entirely human anymore. It was the look of a predator that had just realized it was stronger than anything hunting it. "Yes, I can," she said quietly. "Trust me." She kissed him and Emma goodbye, then turned to Ryan. "Where do you need me most?" Ryan hesitated, then handed her a plasma rifle. "Deck 7, Section C. That's where they hit us hardest." Lisa took the weapon and checked its charge. As she headed toward the battle, she could hear the alien voices getting clearer. They were speaking in what sounded like clicks and hisses, but somehow she understood every word. They were calling humans weak. They were discussing which ones would make the best slaves. They were laughing about how easy this conquest would. Lisa smiled grimly as she headed toward the fight. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. Admiral Vextar paced across the bridge of the Death's Talon, his 4 arms gesturing angrily as he tried to understand how a simple conquest had turned into a disaster. Half of his boarding parties were dead, killed by a single human female, who seemed to appear and disappear like a ghost. "Show me the recordings again," he demanded. Commander Zekhai activated the main screen, displaying footage from the boarding craft's security cameras. They watched as Lisa moved through the alien ship like death itself, killing the guard and stealing their equipment before destroying 3 ships in a coordinated explosion. "She understands our technology," Zekhai observed. "No primitive species should be able to operate our systems. And she speaks our language," added Communications Officer Thekmore. "We've intercepted several transmissions where she communicates with other humans using perfect Korath tactical terminology." Vextar's mandibles clicked together in frustration. In over 200 conquests, he had never encountered anything like this. The Korath Empire had faced stronger species, more technologically advanced civilizations, and more numerous armies. But they had never faced anything that seemed to evolve and adapt during battle. "Sir," called out Tactical Officer Draktem, "we're receiving a transmission on our secure military frequency." "From which ship?" "That's just it, sir. It's coming from the human vessel." Vextar's yellow eyes narrowed. "Put it through." The bridge speakers crackled, and then a voice spoke in perfect Korath military dialect. It was clearly human, but the pronunciation and grammar were flawless. Admiral Vextar of the Korath Empire. This is Captain Lisa Martinez of the Human, colony ship New Haven. The bridge fell silent. Every member of the crew stared at the speakers in shock. "You poisoned us with your plague," the voice continued. "You attacked our ship. You tried to enslave our people. You made a critical error in judgment." Vexatar found his voice. "Human, you will surrender immediately. Your species is weak and inferior. You cannot hope to stand against the might of the Korath Empire." A sound came through the speakers that took the alien crew a moment to identify. It was laughter, but there was something predatory about it that made even hardened Korath warriors uncomfortable. "Admiral, your plague didn't kill me. It made me into something your empire has never faced before. Something designed specifically to hunt your species." Impossible. The biological weapon we developed has killed millions of beings across dozens of species. But it's never encountered human DNA before, has it? We're not like the other species you've conquered. We adapt, we evolve. And when you threaten our families, we become something beyond your comprehension. Vextar gestured for Thekmor to trace the signal. "You are one individual against an entire fleet. Even if you possess enhanced capabilities, you cannot defeat 12 destroyers." "Want a bet?" The transmission cut off, leaving the bridge in tense silence. "Did we trace the signal?" Vextar asked. Thekmor shook his head. "It was bounced through multiple relay points on their ship. She could be anywhere." "Sir," Dractum called out urgently, "I'm detecting movement near our outer perimeter. Something small just left the human ship. On the main screen they could see a tiny craft, barely larger than a single-person shuttle, heading directly toward their fleet. It was moving erratically, too fast and too agile to be a normal human vessel." "Is it a missile?" Commander Zekhai asked. "Negative. It's definitely a piloted craft, but I'm only reading one life sign aboard." Vextar studied the approaching vessel. "It's her. The enhanced human. She's actually coming out here to fight us." The small craft accelerated past several Korath destroyers, dodging their defensive fire with impossible precision. It seemed to anticipate where the energy blasts would be before the weapons even fired. "All ships, concentrate fire on that vessel," Vextar ordered. The space around Lisa's stolen shuttle lit up with energy beams from dozens of Korath ships, but somehow she threaded through the defensive fire like she could see the future. Her shuttle approached one of the smaller destroyers and attached itself to the ship's hull near an airlock. Within minutes, explosions began to ripple across the destroyer's surface. "She's inside the bone crusher," Thekmor reported. "Captain Gekthor is requesting immediate assistance." But before any help could arrive, the bone crusher went dark. Its engines shut down, its weapons went offline, and its communications went silent. "What happened?" Vextar demanded. "Unknown, sir. The ship is still intact, but we're reading no life signs aboard." The shuttle detached from the dead destroyer and headed toward the next ship in the formation. "She killed the entire crew," Zekhai whispered in disbelief. "Over 300 warriors." "Sir," called out Navigation Officer Kekvar, "we're receiving an emergency transmission from the homeworld." Emperor Zekthon's image appeared on the communication screen. The supreme ruler of the Korath Empire looked old and tired, his scales showing the pale coloring of advanced age. "Admiral Vextar, explain to me why I am receiving panic reports from your fleet about a single human warrior." Vextar straightened. "To attention." Your Imperial Majesty, the humans have somehow weaponized our own biological agent. One of their soldiers has been enhanced beyond normal capabilities. Enhanced how? She appears to have gained superhuman speed, strength, and intelligence. She understands our language, our technology, and our tactics. She's already killed over 200 of our warriors. The Emperor's eyes glowed with anger. You are telling me that one primitive human has defeated trained Korath soldiers? Not defeated, Your Majesty. Hunted. She moves through our ships like a predator stalking prey. On the tactical display, Lisa's shuttle had reached the second destroyer. This time, the ship's crew was ready for her. They had sealed all airlocks and positioned warriors at every possible entry point. It didn't matter. The ship died just as quickly as the first one. Your Imperial Majesty, Vextar continued, I request permission to retreat and call for reinforcements. This human represents a threat unlike anything we have encountered before. Emperor Zekthon was quiet for a long moment, studying the tactical reports scrolling across his screen. Admiral, in 1,000 years of expansion, the Korath Empire has never retreated from an inferior species. With respect, Your Majesty, I don't think this species is inferior anymore. The communication link went silent as a third destroyer went dark on the tactical display. Sir, Dractum called out, the human vessel is hailing us again. Put it through. Lisa's voice filled the bridge once more, but this time there was something different about her tone. She sounded calm, almost conversational. Admiral, I've studied your technology now. I know how your ships work, how your weapons function, and how your crews think. I understand your tactics and your weaknesses. What do you want, human? I want you to leave. Take your remaining ships and go back to whatever hole you crawled out of. Never come near human space again. Vextar's pride flared. The Korath Empire does not negotiate with prey species. Then I guess I'll have to kill all of you. A fourth destroyer went silent on the tactical display. Sir, Zekai said quietly, perhaps we should consider a tactical withdrawal. Vexitar looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. For the first time in their lives, these hardened warriors looked afraid. In the distance, Lisa's shuttle was already heading toward the fifth destroyer. All ships, Vexitar said finally, prepare for emergency hyperspace jump. Sir? Dractem looked confused. We're leaving. Now. But as the Korath fleet powered up their hyperspace drives, Lisa's voice came through the speakers one more time. Running. Away, Admiral? That's probably wise. But remember this. If I ever see Korath ships in human space again, I'll hunt down every last one of you. That's not a threat. That's a promise. Lisa floated in the silence of space, watching the Korath fleet prepare for their hyperspace jump. Her stolen shuttle was positioned between two dead destroyers, their hulls dark and lifeless. Inside each ship, every alien warrior lay dead, not from weapons fire, but from their own biological agents turned against them. She had learned something interesting during her raids on the alien vessels. The Korath carried samples of dozens of different biological weapons, each one designed to target a specific species they had conquered. Lisa's enhanced mind had quickly figured out how to modify these weapons to affect Korath physiology instead. The aliens had created her to be the perfect hunter, but they didn't realize she was also the perfect student. Every ship she boarded taught her more about their technology, their biology, and their weaknesses. Admiral Vextar, she spoke into the communication system, her voice carrying across the Korath fleet's military frequency. You seem to be in a hurry to leave. Vextar's reply crackled with static as his ship's hyperspace engines charged. This is not over, human. The Empire has 1,000 fleets. We will return with force you cannot imagine. Lisa smiled as she activated the systems she had stolen from the dead destroyers. Actually, Admiral, I don't think you'll be going anywhere. The Korath had a weakness they didn't even know about. Their hyperspace drives operated on a biological principle, using living tissue to navigate between dimensions. Lisa had spent the past hour introducing a virus into that tissue, a modified version of the same plague that had nearly killed her. One by one, the Korath ships began to experience hyperspace drive failures. The living components of their navigation systems were dying, stranding them in normal space. "What have you done?" Vextar's voice carried a note of panic. "I've leveled the playing field. Now we can finish this properly." Lisa guided her shuttle toward the Korath flagship, the massive Death's Talon. This ship was 3 times larger than the destroyers she had already neutralized, with a crew of over 2,000 warriors and enough firepower to destroy a small moon. As she approached, the ship's defensive systems opened fire. Energy beams and missile strikes filled the space around her shuttle, but Lisa moved through them like a dancer. Her enhanced reflexes allowed her to anticipate each attack, and her understanding of Korath targeting systems let her exploit their blind spots. She attached her shuttle to an auxiliary airlock and began cutting through the hull with alien cutting, tools she had acquired. Within minutes, she was inside the flagship, moving through corridors filled with armed Korath warriors. But this time, she didn't rely on stealth or surprise. This time, she wanted them to see her coming. The first group of aliens she encountered was a patrol of 6 warriors moving through the ship's central corridor. They saw her approaching and opened fire immediately, but Lisa seemed to move between the energy blasts like they were standing still. She had learned to use their own tactics against them. The Korath fought in coordinated groups, supporting each other and covering each other's weaknesses. But Lisa fought like a force of nature, unpredictable, relentless, and absolutely merciless. When the patrol was dead, she picked up their communication equipment and spoke directly to the ship's command structure. "Attention, crew of the Death's Talon. This is Captain Lisa Martinez. I'm aboard your ship, and I'm coming for all of you. You have 2 choices. Surrender, now, or die fighting." Admiral Vextar's voice echoed through the ship's intercom system. "All warriors to battle stations. Kill the human on sight. No prisoners." Lisa laughed as she moved deeper into the ship. "Wrong choice, Admiral." What followed was not a battle. It was a hunt. Lisa moved through the Korath flagship like a predator in her element, using every corridor, every ventilation shaft, and every maintenance tunnel to her advantage. She had studied Korath psychology during her raids on the other ships. They were a proud species, used to being the apex predators in any conflict. They had never faced an enemy that was stronger, faster, and smarter than they were. Fear was a new experience for them, and Lisa used it as a weapon. She would appear in one section of the ship, kill a patrol, then vanish before reinforcements could arrive. She sabotaged their weapon systems, turned their own security measures against them, and used their biological weapons to clear entire decks. The reports flooding into the bridge became increasingly desperate. Engineering Deck 7 is silent. No response from any personnel. Medical Bay has been contaminated with unknown biological agent. All staff are dead. She's in the weapon systems. Main guns are offline. Commander Zek High turned to Admiral Vextar with panic in his yellow eyes. Sir, we've lost over half the crew. She's systematically destroying us from within. Vextar studied the tactical displays showing Lisa's progress through his ship. She was moving with purpose, not randomly killing but specifically targeting critical systems and key personnel. She's not just hunting us, he realized. She's learning our ship's layout, our command structure, our weaknesses. She's preparing for something bigger. As if summoned by his words, Lisa's voice came through the bridge speakers. Admiral, I've taken control of your ship's biological weapon storage. Did you know you carry enough toxins to kill every living thing on a dozen worlds? I've been studying your records. The plague you used on my people was just one of hundreds of weapons you've deployed against innocent civilizations. What do you want? Vextar demanded. Justice, and a message for your empire. The ship's internal sensors showed Lisa in the main biological weapons laboratory, working with equipment that even trained Korath scientists handled with extreme caution. Sir, Techmore called out from his station. She's modified the atmospheric systems. She's introducing something into the air recycling network. Vextar could already smell it, a sweet, cloying scent that made his breathing difficult. Around the bridge, his crew was beginning to show symptoms of respiratory distress. Abandon. Ship, he ordered. All hands to escape pods. Sir, the escape pods have been sabotaged. She's sealed all the launch bays. Lisa's voice filled the bridge one final time. Admiral, your crew is dying from a modified version of your own biological weapons. The same toxins you've used to murder billions of innocent beings across the galaxy. You have about 10 minutes before total system failure. You're killing everyone on board, Vexitar gasped, his vision beginning to blur. Yes, just like you killed my people. The difference is they were innocent. You are not. Vextar collapsed to his knees as the toxin spread through his system. Around him, his bridge crew was dying, their bodies shutting down as their own weapons turned against them. The Empire will avenge us, he wheezed. Let them try, but first they need to hear what happened here. Lisa had rigged the ship's long-range communication system to broadcast everything that had occurred. The death of the Korath fleet, the systematic destruction of their flagship, and most importantly, her final message. As Admiral Vextar died, Lisa's voice carried across subspace to every Korath vessel in the galaxy. This is Captain Lisa Martinez of humanity. Your empire made the mistake of threatening human families. You turned me into the perfect weapon against your species, and now I'm going to use that gift to hunt down every last one of you who participated in this attack. Consider this your only warning. Stay away from human space, or face extinction. So, Death's Talon went dark, joining its sister ships in the graveyard Lisa had created. In the silence of space, 12 Korath destroyers drifted lifeless, their crews dead and their threat ended. Lisa piloted her shuttle back toward the New Haven, where 50,000 humans waited to learn if they would live or die. They would live, but the galaxy would never be the same.